Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mount Sack, Mario Lopez. Get into that a little later.
Oh, yeah. You follow me on social media. I appreciate that. Howard Cosell, Korean Cosell, I should say. Kimster, shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier, Buffalo Knuckles, and
Tino on the edits. Let's get started. This past Saturday, from Wembley Stadium in jolly old England on ESPN pay-per-view, and still the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, stops Dillian Whyte in 6.
Okay, Kim, first let's talk about the event itself. I love me some Brits. Those guys show up and show out. What an atmosphere, huh? 95,000 some odd people, and it was like a rock concert. Everyone was thrilled to be there, and the entrances, just next level. And we'll start talking about Fury and his place in history, if in fact it is his last fight, a little later. But I'll tell you what I love about Fury. He had a real opponent in front of him in Dillian Whyte, who really showed up in, I thought, great shape. He had trained hard. He obviously knew the task that was ahead. Fury is so relaxed, so composed in there, does not get overwhelmed by the moment or by his opponent, and he uses his size so well, him being 6'9" and 2 whatever he is. He's a mountain of a man, and I always said he's like a bag of milk, but my guy is incredibly athletic and is fluid with his punches, fundamentally sound, and he's really sneaky. He's good about creating the distance, jabbing, throwing a combination, having the stiff arm, crowding you, and then leaning on top of you. That weighs you down. That really just does a toll on its legs. And he was doing that to Dillian Whyte, who was trying to attack to the body, but he was very composed, did not engage right away. He was setting up his punches, sort of measuring his distance, started chopping down to the body and doing nice little choppy right hooks. I ended up seeing the whole fight, by the way, because I know we were talking about it. I got home just in time. And then when he set up that uppercut, which was so beautiful, the little pivot and the way he set it up, his boxing IQ, next level, bravo. And the thing was, it didn't even land flush on the chin. It kind of caught him on the cheekbone, but the way it jolted that head back, thought the stoppage was perfect. There was no argument there. He showed why he is not only the best heavyweight in the world today, I think head and shoulders above everyone else, but in my mind, one of the best of all time.
At 6'9", 264, the only thing bigger than him, as you mentioned, is his boxing IQ. He literally kept that right uppercut in his back pocket.
Yep.
You could just see it. He was
getting
him drunk. Then he mugged him.
Yep.
And Dillian Whyte, the problem with him is he was supposed to be a pressure fighter. Too slow and ponderous. His feet were not quick enough, and he kept getting caught out either at a distance or in the mid-range. He could never really crowd Tyson Fury the way he needed to.
And when he did get inside, Kim, what is great about Fury is the way he negates that pressure. He leans on you, and he uses that forearm over the neck, and he'll either pivot to punch or he'll just tie you up where you're rendered useless. And that takes such a physical toll on you, so he was helpless after a while.
So Tyson Fury is now 32-0-1, scoring his 23rd knockout. Dillian Whyte goes to 28-3. We'll talk more about Tyson Fury later. But you know what? The fight week started off with the bang on Thursday night. Golden Boy Promotions from the Fantasy Springs Casino on the DAZN, and it was a lightweight scrap. Mabuhay! Mercito Gesta with a 10-round decision, hard-fought, well-earned over Joel Diaz Jr. Your scores, 96-92 twice, 95-93.
Props to Golden Boy for starting this developmental series again.
Much needed.
Much needed, and they started off with a bang. That was a banger. When you called me about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, Thursday night. So we ended up checking it out, and wow, what a back-and-forth slugfest. He touched the canvas couple times, the way he was able to work himself back in there. I don't know if it's candidate for fight of the year.
It'll go to the banquet. It'll be invited.
It'll be invited. And it was a fun fight, and I'm glad it was a TV-friendly fight for this series, because that's the type of fights and the type of fighters that I think will highlight this series, and that'll end up gaining some traction.
You know, Mercito Gesta was a blessing and a curse that he was Filipino. Blessing in a sense that, hey, there's a Filipino market, there's a great history. Problem was, because he was southpaw, everyone kept comparing him to Manny Pacquiao. And it kind of reminded me in the 80s or late 80s, any shooting guard or point guard that could dribble the ball over 6'6", was automatically compared to Magic Johnson. Whether it was Sean Elliott, Walt Williams, there's only one Magic. Like there's only one Manny Pacquiao. But in the first round, Mercito came out Pacquiao-ish.
He did.
He kind of did. He set the tone, then he faded, but it was a great fight. Staved him off late. How do you like this idea? We know that Ryan Garcia has said, hey, look, I need some work. I need some activity. Mercito Gesta's with Golden Boy. He's a somewhat recognizable name, and he has a good style. Is that the worst idea you've ever heard?
I love it, but they'll keep him far away. He's all wrong.
So?
He's all wrong for us. He's all wrong because a fighter who lets his hands go, comes forward, pressures him. You would think that would play into it. Too dangerous for right now. He's a little too.
What are we
no. Listen. You're absolutely right. It's a fight that should happen. I don't think they'll allow it to happen. Unfortunately, going back to Gesta really quick because I saw him spar at Brickhouse Boxing not too long ago. I've never seen a dude not warm up. Literally, not warm up, and then go in there and start throwing chingazos in the first round. I mean, it was like that fight.
Yeah.
I'm on my dude didn't even shadow box around. Literally gloved up, and then boom, just started throwing. I was like, whoa. I don't know how you can get away with that these days. I don't know if he's warming up in the parking lot, but I don't know what that says about him. But I just thought it was a little crazy observation.
He's Vinny Johnson. The microwave gets heated up quickly.
Dude, super
All right.
quick.
Love the T-shirt. Perfect segue. Right. This Saturday night on ESPN from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Junior Lightweight Showdown, Unification Battle. It's a WBC and WBO titles on the line. Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson. Mario, you know what's very difficult to find? Anyone picking Valdez.
Listen, I don't disagree with that. Let's stay on Valdez for a second. To me, if he has a shot in winning this, he has to take a page out of the Orlando Salido playbook. And he has to look at, because ironically, I think this is very similar in the Salido-Lomachenko sort of fight, in that Shakur being Lomachenko, of course, incredibly skilled, fast feet, fast hands, well skilled. Valdez has no shot if he's going to, quote, just try to box.
Can't make it a staring contest.
He's got to get in there and get nasty like a Salido. A lot of overhand rights, hits to the hips, some elbows. He's got to make it nasty. He's got to make it dirty. He's got to make it uncomfortable. And that's the only way I see him winning this type of fight, if he goes in there Salido-esque a la Lomachenko. And Lomachenko was a better fighter after that experience. I don't know if he could pull that off, but I think that's the only way he can. I think Stevenson, that kid's special. And look, you rarely see that guy get hit clean, for that matter.
Or ever.
And he makes good fighters look ordinary. And I'm always going to pull for a tough guy with dimples. You know, so I like me some Shakur, good-looking kid, and he can whoop some ass, but very, very, just at the peak of all his powers right now. Super skilled, fast, defensive-minded. He's not afraid to get nasty in there, too. When he wants to get inside, I've seen him in there. He'll get mean in there, but he doesn't need to. I think really highly of Shakur. I think he can go up to lightweight, and I like him against a lot of the lightweights. Am I crazy in thinking that?
I call him Triple S. He's Stealth Shakur Stevenson. He has the ability to be right in front of you, and as the old-timers say, couldn't hit him with a handful of buckshot, and he hits you blind.
Right.
In other words, you don't see the punches coming, so even though he's not a devastating puncher, the fact you don't see it, you see him dissuading his opponents from ever letting their hands go. They don't like what's coming back.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yes.
That's exactly it. And you get really frustrated. That's why you can't even stay in that mid-range. Forget the outside, but even in the mid-range, he will eat you up. You got to get in there, put your hair, and you got to make it nasty.
Yeah, and you're right. If I'm Eddie Reynoso, I tell Oscar, first 2 rounds, I need 250 punches total. Yep. You got to get in there. I don't care if you lose. I don't care if you get cut up, but we're not going out with a whimper. You go out there fighting on your shield.
Hit him in the ass. Watch those elbows. Go. You got to make it nasty and let him know right off the bat. Seriously, you got to set that pace, because other than that, I don't. And Valdez is a good fighter, obviously. Yes. Great fighter. I don't see him winning if he doesn't make it that type of fight. Do you disagree?
Yeah, talking about Valdez, last year it was the best of times, the worst of times. He upsets the apple cart by devastating Miguel Burchelt. Then the situation,
one of the best knockouts ever.
Right, and then he had the VADA testing situation before his fight with Robson Fonseca, and I still remember him in the locker room, ESPN showing him. It looked like he had 1,000 pounds of weight on his shoulders. Yeah. He just was not there. I thought he was very fortunate to get that decision. I have a theory. Without those struggles and without all the heat that he took, his name being besmirched and dragged through the mud, I don't think he calls out Shakur Stevenson. This is a way of clearing his name out. There are certain fights, in my view, Mario, you are fighting not because for the money, even though the money's important, it's for your pride and your reputation. And
well, I give him credit for that. Then.
Yes.
I tip of the hat. There's very few fighters like Pacquiao, and I don't mean the physical specimen that he is. I mean a guy who can handle a lot, has no problem with drama or hearsay.
Right. They thrive on it.
They thrive on
Control
it.
chaos is what I call it.
Exactly. Control chaos. Pacquiao, you could say whatever you want about him when there was rumors, this and that. He doesn't care. It doesn't. There's very few. And then there's, I think, a lot, or maybe most, or like a Valdez. It's going to affect you because you're human. And it's going to sort of take its toll. There's a lot of psychology in play.
The Blood, Sweat, and Tears, which is like their version of 24/7 that ESPN produces with Top Rank. I saw episode 1. Oscar's still getting emotional about what he went through or what he put himself through back in September. So this certainly weighs on his mind.
Right.
Look, this is a coronation of one or two things. Shakur Stevenson as a pound-for-pound entrant, where for the next 10 years, he's going to be among the very, very elite. Or if Oscar Valdez upsets the apple cart, he might be punching his ticket to the Hall of Fame. A lot on the line.
I agree. I think it's a star-making opportunity for either fighter, should they be victorious.
And if Eddie Reynoso can pull this off and guide his horse to first place in the Kentucky Derby, I'm going to start calling him Mexican Emmanuel Stewart. And I'll tell you why.
It's we're going to use a Baffert reference.
Okay, maybe that one, but I'm showing
Bob
my
Baffert.
age. But look, it's easy to win with Canelo. He's the best fighter in the sport.
Sure.
And a lot of trainers, when every single fight you're the favorite, you're going to win 99%. What does a good trainer do once in a while? They pull the upset. Big stage for everybody.
What are the odds right now?
I believe it's like 4-5 to 1.
Wow.
For Stevenson.
Wow. That's big.
I'm just telling you, I don't know of a single boxing insider picking Valdez.
Huh.
Think about that.
Okay.
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 Now, also on this night from the famed Madison Square Garden on the Zone, ladies first. It's ladies' night, indeed, for the female lightweight championship of the world.
Cool.
Katie Taylor takes on Amanda Serrano. Two ways to look at this fight. Look, I am not a women's boxing expert, but here's what I see. Katie Taylor is the bigger, more natural lightweight. Recent fights, I think Amanda Serrano's been a little bit sharper, but she's moving up in weight. I think this is a true 50-50 fight.
That's what makes it exciting. I always go with momentum and who's the hotter hand at the moment. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to play out that way, but if I were a betting man, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and look, I think it's unfair to say this, but this is the reality. Given the fact this has been called the biggest female fight in the history of boxing, don't you think there's pressure on both ladies here to actually put on a good show?
Yes, it could go that route where they both lay it on the line, or they could both be a little too defensive and conservative and stake out the joint. Let's hope it's the former.
Yeah, also on this card, Jesse Vargas takes on Liam Smith. Mario, moving on.
Fun.
May 14th, I'm going to call it May Day. Mayday.
Yo.
Mayday. A lot of boxing. Golden Boy Promotions announced late last week.
Yeah.
Zurdo Ramirez will take on Dominic Bozell, which is fine, from Ontario. Here's the issue, though. If you're a Southern California fight fan, from the War Grounds in Carson, Showtime has a very good fight. The
good
rematch,
card.
yes, between Jermel Charlo and Brian Castagna and my guy, Boots Ennis. And then on Triller, from the Great Western, still fabulous form, Sergey Kovalev and the Vargas brothers. A lot of choices. Is it too damn much?
Well, it's too much for L.A.
For one night.
I can't believe all of those fights are. I don't have a problem with all those fights. Let's say if one was in California, one was in Texas, one was in New York.
How about Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Can we do?
Well, that'd be great. Yes, in a perfect world. But let's assume they're all on the same night, but all in L.A.
At the same time.
At the same time? That's that's an abundance of riches that backfires.
Yes,
right there.
And people have always said to me when I've made this argument about too much at one time, they say, well, Steve, you watch college football. A lot of the games happen on the same. Here's a difference, though.
Huge difference.
Some of the games happen at 9 a.m. Some of the games happen in the 12:30 window. Some of them happen at 4:30. Then you wrap it up with the big West Coast game at 5:30.
And you also
know
you're getting football every week. We don't know if we're getting boxing every week, and we don't know if we're getting these matchups like this. So.
Right. So still a lot of time to go. It'll be interesting to see if any of these fights really sell well at the box office. All right, we come back. We wrap it up with Ask Mario and Final Flurries. And we're back on the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. Steve Kim, Mario Lopez talking boxing. We go to the Ask Mario portion of this fine program. Here's one from Joel. This has been a lot of discussion over this particular subject. Where does he, Tyson Fury, rank on the all-time great list?
Okay. Are we talking? I want to make sure we understand the criteria here. Are we talking like all-time great, like if you were to match him up against other heavyweights, or as a resume? Because I think Tyson Fury.
I think all of that goes into it, doesn't it?
Well, because look, you can't blame a guy for not having necessarily other great heavyweights or opponents on his resume. He could be a product of his era, a la Larry Holmes, okay? But to me, Tyson Fury would give any heavyweight throughout history problems.
Agreed.
6'9", 2 whatever. His
fleet of foot,
his athletic ability, intelligence. Really, honestly, I see him beating everyone. Be honest, the ones I think would give him problems, that's including Ali, by the way. He's just so big. He's just would be like an Ali, a prime Lennox Lewis, and maybe, which to me I think is the most interesting, a prime Vitaly Klitschko.
Yes,
because like Fury, still, but not as big. But like Fury, sort of kind of awkward to his benefit. And I would have, one of the fights, and we've talked about it a lot, is when Klitschko fought Lewis and his eye betrayed him, one of the worst eye gashes I've ever seen. But he was winning that fight. And I think had Lennox not retired in the rematch, I think I would have favored him in that fight. So other than if I'm literally picking 3 guys that I think would give him problems, and even at that point, I don't know, I might still favor him. You got to put him up there. He's absolutely top 10. Argument could be made for top 5. Don't you
I have
think?
him in my top 20, top 50, and I'll tell you why.
But are you basing it on what? Give me other heavyweights that'll beat him.
No,
at their prime.
that's
Well,
part of it.
That's what I'm saying. What's the criteria? How much are we putting into what?
I agree.
That's the problem.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
You state the case for him. Let me count the counterpoints.
Okay.
He only has 33 fights, and there's something to be said about going through a consistent gauntlet of guys for years at a time. Tyson went years at a time without fighting. He's only made 2 official defenses of his title. Now, with that said, that's not fighting. I agree with you. At 6'9", 260 plus, with his agility and ability to be versatile and adaptable,
Who beats him?
there's not a lot of guys that beat him.
That's my point.
The other issue is that if he doesn't fight the winner of Usyk, Anthony Joshua, that's a huge gaping hole in the resume. He needs to get out there and fight that winner of that rematch. Bottom line.
Let's assume he does fight the winner. Let's assume he's victorious. Where does he climb now?
He'd be in my top 10. You retire undisputed. That is a huge feather in the cap. I will say this, in terms of the modern day 2010 beyond, he's number 1 in his era. And that's the only era you can really judge him by.
Absolutely.
Of clear-cut victory over Vladimir Klitschko and 2-0-1 with 2 knockouts over Deontay Wilder. So that's why, to me, he can't, and I don't think he's going to retire, but he has to fight the winner of Usyk, Joshua. And for my money, I kind of want to see him fight Usyk based on the style. We'll get into that a little bit more later.
Usyk is a much better boxer, much more talented athlete. But pause on that before you continue. I don't know so much. He could be. Look, he made what, $36 million on Saturday? Right. I think he might take the Mayweather route in the sense that now do these novelty fights where he can make. Well, I mean, can you blame him? What else does he have to prove, really? And he's made a ton of money.
But can he do it after the winner of Usyk,
of course,
Joshua?
That's what I'd like. But you don't think he's going to, when he called Francis Ngannou, UFC heavyweight champion,
interesting question he asked him, by the way. Yeah, anyway.
What was the question?
How big is yours? Never mind. He asked him that.
Wait, what did he ask him? He did?
Yes, it was fun. It was Fury being Fury.
You don't have to whisper over here. We're all grown-ups here.
We're a family show here.
But that's interesting if that happens, right? Because then he started taking that route. Then maybe he is got one foot out the door.
He says a lot of things. Here's one from Just Matt, 24. Has Tyson Fury surpassed AJ from being the biggest star in the UK?
Yes, absolutely. I think no doubt. No doubt. I know there was some controversy because the whole gypsy thing, whatever. He's so likable, and he's such an entertainer, and I think there's no doubt of his dominance. I think the UK embraces him.
You know what every country loves? Winners. And for so many years, the British heavyweights were always known as being horizontal, right? They always failed at the biggest stages, and they were known for being lovable losers. This guy's a winner. And so, look, in the past, has Joshua been a bigger draw? Yes.
He looked the part.
But
he looked like the Greek god. He looked like your heavyweight champion should look. So, of course, they're going to want to position him and embrace him. But I think on the flip side, a guy with the dad bod who's over here whipping ass, who's probably more relatable.
Conquered America. Which very few British fighters have done.
Exactly.
I think at least puts him equal, if not beyond, like you said. Here's one.
Shout out to Fury, by the way. He retweeted and reposted my story with my highlight of him.
He's a big fan.
He was cool.
He watched Saved by the Bell, obviously.
Stupid.
Here's one from the only Sanch. Asked that Mexican Tennessee volunteer, Rocky Top, why is every media outlet downplaying Usyk's resume, path to winning 6 championship fights, and immediately dismissing him versus Fury? And number 2, who wins, Zurdo versus Benavidez, and who would the winner have the Mexican people demanding Canelo fight?
Two good questions. Look, no insider and nobody that really knows the sport dismissing Usyk. I think outside of Canelo, he is a strong, there's 1 and there's 1A as far as resume and most talented and accomplished fighters in the sport right now, wouldn't you say? There's Canelo, then there's Usyk.
If Usyk's not in your top 3, I don't take your pound for pound list seriously.
You're exactly right. So with that said, the only reason I still strongly favor Fury is because of the size. You got to remember, Usyk was a cruiserweight for most of his career, and he went up and he did what he's supposed to against Joshua. But now even a much bigger man. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying it's a tall order.
Mario, I think Usyk is the worst guy for him, and I'll tell you why. Based on history, I was there ringside when Otto Wallin, relatively small heavyweight by today's standards, also southpaw, his in and out movement and his mobility troubled Fury. See, Fury looks really mobile against ponderous guys who lumber. His athleticism is accentuated. Against a guy like Usyk, who's the master boxer, look, if Lomachenko was a 230-pounder, he would be Usyk. Also, go back to Steve Cunningham. There have been interviews where Fury has flat out said his athleticism and his slipperiness gave me a lot of problems. I actually don't want to face that style again.
I don't think it's easy, but I also think Fury knows what's in front of him. I think he'll lean on him. I think he'll hold him. He'll do a lot of the jabs and hold again. A lot of forearms to the face. I think he'll make it ugly, but I think it's just too tall of an order just because of the size differential.
But
that's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm just saying I'd still have to probably favor Fury.
Also, what I saw 5-6 months ago, Usyk, who in the first couple of fights at heavyweight was kind of I think he's grown into being a legitimate heavyweight now. The in and out movement, southpaw style. Usyk's also crazy enough to think he can win. A lot of these mind games, Fury's a master at it. Won't work with Usyk. Usyk is too experienced. He's too tough.
My guy just came out of a war.
Yes.
So he's not tripping.
So I actually believe, look, I'm not saying it's 50-50, but of all the fights that are currently out there, that's the closest one to being 50-50 for Tyson Fury.
So you really like him against Joshua in this rematch?
Yes, I do. I'm not so sure what changes. What do you think anything changes?
I think Joshua knows that he has to keep him on the outside and let that right hand go a lot more frequently. Look, he's not a dumb guy. He made nice adjustments when he fought Andy Ruiz. So I'm curious to see I think it's actually pretty intriguing.
Yeah, but he ain't fighting the second version of Andy Ruiz again. I think that created a bit of a mirage over how effective a long-range boxer he really is.
No, I agree. However, I think he also knows, as well as Eddie Hearns, that this is the last hurrah on this stage if he's to remain relevant.
Here's one from Daniel Gonzalez. This is for both of you. Was Saturday's undercard the worst you've seen for a pay-per-view? I saw it at a theater, and the only other guy there was asleep the whole time. Mario, I'm going to dust this line off again. That undercard was so bad it needed Butterbean and Mia St. John. It was awful. And look, they spent $41 million on the main event. They must have spent $41 on the undercard. It's like, wow, look.
I told you they can always learn from the UFC and why they don't use those opportunities
to build
and highlight the fight. Yes, that's the number one thing I think that boxing and promoters need to do to attract more fans and change the sport as far as that they're actually capable and can do.
Or show me a guy that I'm going to be like, ooh, who are you? Like this Saturday, I will make sure I'm in my seat. Top Rank has 2 young prospects fighting at various points of the night or the afternoon. Abdullah Mason and a kid that I'm very high on, Keyshawn Davis. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, I think those 2 guys can be premier blue chip talent. And I want to say something about my experience on Saturday night. I know you had to rush home from your son's wrestling tournament that we're going to bring up a little bit later. I went to Tom's Watch Bar, which was formerly the ESPN Zone, right on the corner of LA Live, across the street from the Staples Center.
Yeah, how was that?
It is basically a sports bar that looks like a Las Vegas sports book. They have like 50, 60 screens.
Really?
And there was no cover charge. I happened to see it on Instagram. They said, come by tomorrow, no cover charge. We're showing the fight. Look, there weren't a lot of people. And even when the undercard was going on, I guess, a lot of Kings fans came in, LA Kings. I guess that's the tailgate spot. Great spot. So if you're in LA, looking for a place or an establishment that'll get the fights, I guess that's the spot. Really clean, really classy, great staff.
Could you hear it?
They raised the volume.
Oh, they did. Okay,
I listened to Joe Tessitore.
There's so many TVs and events going on. They usually have the volume off, which is kind of annoying, but they had it on.
And since it wasn't football season, I would say 3/4 of the screen, no matter where you walk, to the restroom, to the bar, you saw fights on various screens.
Nice.
It was a very good time. I'm actually going to go back there for football season.
Okay.
It's a good little find.
Good to know.
Mario, going on to final flurries. If you see Mike Tyson in Coach, first of all, I'd ask, what the hell are you doing in Coach? You know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to even bother him.
You know, that guy, turns out, was a criminal. He had 2 stints in prison.
What a surprise.
One for 2 years, another one for like a year and a half. And he's got a pretty lengthy rap sheet. I don't know what he was doing in first class. Well, that's another thing. You figure you're in first class, you don't have to deal with idiots and shenanigans. To piss Tyson off these days, because my guy just is high 24/7, you must have really been a punk and an annoying punk. And we only saw, of course, snippets of what somebody recorded. But I heard that he was just bothering him, and it was pretty relentless for like a half an hour because you're able to pre-board early when you go on those flights. And he did give him a picture, and he wouldn't shut up. And then at one point, he threw a water bottle at him, which I think is going to be Tyson's saving grace, because everyone agrees I think that guy deserved it. And it was kind of like open-handed smacks, because if Tyson would have closed his fist, I think that would have been it. You got to learn how to respect people's space. It doesn't matter if they're celebrities, and you got to keep your hands to yourself. That's why I love Tyson's quote about social media is giving people a lot of bravery and to talk a lot of smack without the consequences. Well, that guy learned it the hard way. And he's a punk. Like I said, he's a legit punk. But the water bottle saved him, because now he can claim a little bit of self-defense. Otherwise, he could be looking at a felony assault.
I have a question. Where were the attendants? Where were the airline employees to say, sir, sit down?
You're exactly right. What airline? I don't know what airline. Oh, JetBlue. It was JetBlue.
Which I just flew last week.
No, I know. It's a great airline. I like it. You're right. You're right. They should have. Hey, if you don't settle down.
That thing went on for a while.
If you don't settle down, we're going to ask you to leave. You're exactly right.
And my issue with a lot of the public is, look, I get it. You're fans. But there comes a point you have to leave celebrities alone. They all have bad days. They put their pant legs on one at a time, just like the rest of us. Sometimes they don't want to deal with you. Lay back. Anyway, Mario, how'd your son do on Saturday?
You know, God, this weekend, man, I going out back to back after 40, it's tough, dude. I need like a good 2 weeks to recover. That's why I'm sounding rough right now. I went out Friday night with a buddy of mine who's getting married, and had to go to Israel. So that was a late night. I had to get up at 6 in the morning to go down to Mount Sac.
Like iced tea.
Yeah, exactly. But after drinking all night, Mount Sac, the good track team out there.
Yeah.
So there was a wrestling tournament, and my son now wrestles and does jiu-jitsu all year long. These kids now are like high level, dude, at such a young age. And I let him, he likes to skateboard too, because I don't want to be that dad that kind of overwhelms him with all this stuff. So I let him have his other little outlets because I don't want him to get burnt out. And he did real well. I was proud of him. He wrestled 2 divisions, freestyle and folk style wrestling. He came in second, in third. The one where he should have came in, he should have had the 2 seconds, because the one other opponent was really good. But he got a little bit screwed, and he was really hard on himself. And I said, hey, listen, there are no losers here. There's winners and learners. You got to learn, and you got to just work. You know what we got to work on. That was it. So that's why I love individual sports, and specifically wrestling. So many life lessons there. You're out there by yourself, completely vulnerable. You got to be tough emotionally, psychologically, as well as physically. So I love that he loves it, and it's great for me. But my voice sounds so hoarse because I'm been screaming right there. So I get more drained and out
Maury,
of it
do you
when
believe
he's in it.
There's a UFC effect in a sense that because of the rise of that industry, where parents once put you in football, baseball, or basketball, there's a certain segment of the population that says, hey, learn how to do this because of the UFC?
Absolutely, because all the champions, all your really successful champions with long reigns, they're all wrestlers. That's their base. Look, you can learn how to strike, you can learn jiu-jitsu, but wrestling is one of those things that you had to have done it from like a young age, just to get comfortable with.
It has to become second nature.
It's got to become second nature. And Khabib and GSP and John Jones, DC, they're all wrestlers first. Then they learned jiu-jitsu, then they learned and they worked on their striking. But just the mentality of the go forward, your confidence, which is huge, to be right when you're battling. All those guys from Chechnya and Chimaev and all that, they're all wrestlers.
They do it out of the womb.
Yes. So that's the best foundation, I would say. Then you can learn all the other arts, and they're all important, but that's the best for the foundation. So that's what I told my son. I said, if you can wrestle, you can do anything. So I'm glad he likes it. And so he does jiu-jitsu. He's into skateboarding. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Mario, quickly, you watching anything on TV that has caught your eye?
Yes, I've been starting the last season of Better Call Saul. Did you watch
Never seen it.
Dude, what does it matter with you? You've never seen Breaking Bad?
No. Never mind. That was never into it.
Never into it. It's like one of the best shows ever. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, I'll be the judge of that.
You have to watch Kim, you watch a lot of trash and you're not watching one of the best shows. That's literally one of the best shows ever.
First of all, you got to watch it to be into it.
Yeah. Exactly. Breaking Bad is, you've seen it, right, Fraser? Yeah. Breaking Bad is excellent. And then this is the first time that a prequel series, I feel, is just as good as its predecessor. Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul is excellent.
Have you started Winning Time on HBO?
No, I keep hearing things, mixed things. There's so much out there.
It's a great work of fiction.
Jerry West was really pissed.
What they've done to Jerry West,
dude, when
is
they had
slander.
the bootleg Larry Bird and the pictures, that was so funny.
No,
they look like Halloween costumes.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The casting of it is actually very interesting. The guy that plays Magic looks like Quincy Isaiah. Norm Nixon's son is playing Norm Nixon. No wonder why. I was like, oh, okay. Famous actor Adrian Brody is playing Pat Riley.
Yeah.
The guy playing Jerry Buss actually looks like Jerry Buss.
That's great.
Now, Julius Erving looked nothing. He looked like Cleveland from the Family Guy.
Larry Bird, dude. Larry Bird is my
Larry
favorite.
Bird did kind of. In fact, he shoots like Larry Bird. The other show that I really enjoyed, and I was going to be a harsh.
Wait, are you liking it? Are you liking Winning Time?
I'm very conflicted because it's entertaining, but there's so many things that are so untrue.
Well, it's not a documentary.
But
that's the thing.
But it should be based on a true
story.
story.
But it's not a documentary.
But what they've done to Jerry West is
liberty.
completely unfair.
Well, give me the cliff note.
They make him sound like a very angry, almost racist,
really
narcissistic psychopath. And that's not him.
That's
I know people that know Jerry West, like Phil Trainees.
Jerry West, not Jerry Buss.
No. Well, Jerry. By the way, Jerry Buss, they don't really do him a lot of justice either. Wait till you see the show. You're gonna laugh. The way he reacts to his mom's death with the nurse, I was like, oh my God. It's cringeworthy, but I can't turn away from it. I want to give a thumbs up. I was going to be a harsh critic of it, and I think they've hit a grand slam. The new Wonder Years, I think, is the best new show of television in 2021.
Come on, really?
I think it's that good.
I like that you support network TV
They
stuff.
actually tied in Winnie Cooper and the brother that went to Vietnam that died in the first episode. I thought it was brilliant television storytelling what they did.
I got a Winnie Cooper story for you. Danica McKellar.
Yeah.
She happened to sit next to me at the iHeartRadio. What's the one that J-Lo performed at? The music awards, right? Very, very nice. Did you know she's like a mathematician?
Yeah, she went to UCLA and she wrote books and everything.
She wrote a bunch of books. So she was talking. So my daughter went with me, and she actually sat next to my daughter, and she was talking about math, and she's like, "Ugh, math sucks. I can't this." And she has a book called "Math Doesn't Suck."
Yeah.
So she sent me a bunch of books. She's so sweet. For my daughter Gia, for the math. So I asked Gia, what do you think? That's very nice of her. Math still sucks, but that's very nice.
Probably hasn't even cracked it open yet. All right, well, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller on behalf of Mario Lopez, Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits. Goodbye, everybody.